Blessings. This is Pastor Shelton D Johnson, Sr. of That Place Church. In this time and in this season, we all need a right now word that would change the way we think and the way we believe about our God and eventually about each other. Listen, right here in the great city of New Orleans East, every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. That Place Church, 7300 Reed Boulevard. 7300 Reed Boulevard. Be blessed.
A small proportion of it, but in the great masses of life, why are we still dealing with this? And it makes you wonder. Yeah, you can't help but wonder. It makes you wonder what other people thinking about. What is going on in our mind when we lay down at night? That there's some things that make you wonder, where are you, God? And I realize God is where He's always been. But the problem has been just as if the beginning of time. Adam, where art thou?
Hallelujah.
Where are you? In fact, I was meditating today, and because see, one of the misconceptions of the church is we think that living holy is everything, and it is essential. But watch this. What would have happened? Jesus lived as holy as He lived, as holy as any man could ever live. True or false? True. But what would have happened if Jesus never fulfilled His purpose?
Nothing. I know you're right about it.
Holiness means nothing.
Say something there.
Yeah, because our problem ain't living holy. Don't we have issues? Every last one of us have issues. Living holy really ain't the problem, let me tell you. Because we know how to ask God for forgiveness. We know how to pray. We even know how to fast. Our problem is that we won't come together and help each other do what God has called us to do. Yeah, because if we start to do what God called us to do, some of the problems we have will dissipate. Some of the issues will go away. Some of the wickedness and evilness will go back to dark places. Some of the issues that we face will be summed up in a vacuum of love and peace and unity. Some of these things we won't have to deal with if we just come together. But it sounds good to talk about how holy you're living and how you're making all the right decisions. That sounds good to talk. But my question to you is, what are you doing with all your holiness, with all your righteousness, baby? Who are you loving? Who are you helping? Who are you pulling up from the gutter of despair? Who are you pulling up whose mind is shipwrecked? Whose daughter have you prayed with late in the midnight hour? Whose son have you talked to while they were in jail? Who have you prayed with on the hospital bed? What are you doing with yourself? Yeah, because at the end of it all, before we can ever do the second line, we have to understand that there's a price to pay. And with that price to pay, we have to realize that someone paid the price for us. And we have to realize that even though someone paid the price for us, the greatest gift that we can give to future generations is being grateful what was done for us, therefore empowering us to do more than previous generations did, to set a bar and a standard higher for future generations. Yeah, here's one of the questions I always ask myself. What goals would my children have to aim for?
Yeah.
No. Now, here's the thing, because in life, we all get to certain levels. Like there's certain levels of life right now. There's certain things that I just want to attempt. Because those things are really beyond me. And so I have to be wise enough at my age to realize there are just some things, that goals that I used to have, or used to desire, that I will never achieve.
That's right.
And guess what? Miriam, I am okay. Okay. When I played high school and college basketball, one of the biggest things was to be able to dunk the ball. That was a big thing, right? And that was everybody goal, especially us who were 5'10" and shorter, or 6 feet and under. That was the big goal, to be able to dunk the ball, right? I've never dunked the ball. What does it look like at 45 to still be trying to dunk the ball? Now watch this. But what I can do is ensure that DJ gets all the training, gets all the discipline necessary so that he can dunk the ball. And so you and I have to be mature enough to know that there's some things that are behind us. But how do we we celebrate those things, it's helping future generations achieve certain goals that we didn't achieve, but it's in their heart to do it. And so when we realize this, we realize that life simply is a relay race from one generation to the next. But the question is, what are we passing to the next generation? What are we passing to the next generation? And in fact, what I see that has to happen, and I said this to you before, a generation has to die. Loving God, living holy, paying tithes and offering, you gotta die.
Yeah.
Your mind won't change, so you gotta die. You gotta go. It's nothing against you, but it's everything against the reality of it all, is that in order for God to do what he wants to do, you gotta die. So now, with all of this in our mind, the second line really supposed to give us hope and celebration of what can happen. I'm going to say that again. It's supposed to give us hope and a celebration of what can happen. But we came all the way from Africa. We came from West Africa. We came to New Orleans. We fought the struggle. Listen to me. I don't want the easy road. Never in life. I want every struggle that God has for me. In fact, let me tell you, I pray without failing for each and every one of you. But one of my prayers are for you, is, Lord, don't take the struggle away from them. Come on now, because if you be real with yourself, baby, there's some things that you learn in the valley that you cannot learn at the mountaintop. Yeah, you just can't learn those things at the mountaintop. For one, the mountaintop don't present those type of challenges to you. Yeah, we learned some things about us in slavery. We learned some things about us in segregation. We learned some things when we didn't have a whole lot to eat. We learned some things when we didn't have a whole lot of money. We learned some things when we all lived in the hood. We learned some things when we had to wear the same pair of shoes for weeks and months and years. We learned some things when we had to share the same pair of pants. We learned some things when we had to share the same dresses. We learned some things when we had to get one haircut a month. We learned some things when we didn't have enough money. We learned some things when we had to eat leftovers for 3 and 4 days. Baby, we learned some things now that we can't really learn today. Yeah, there's some things that our children will never understand.
I know you're right about it.
There's some things our children will never perceive because they were not kin to the struggle.
I know you're right about it.
And how do you learn these things without the struggle? How do you learn what it's like to go without if you've never been without? That's why I always tell my wife, no, baby. When we go through, everybody in the house go through. The children go through. When we can't do this, they need to know that we can't do this. Why? Because I don't want them growing up in a fictitious world. I don't mind arguing in front of my children. Why? Because this is what men and women do when things ain't right. I don't want you to grow up and think that because you have a disagreement with your wife that the world has come to an end. No, baby, sometimes you ain't going to want to lay next to the one you're laying next to. But that's all right. Keep on fighting for another day. Because marriage ain't about one day, baby. It's about a lifetime. So you need to know that in this house, we have real problems. In this house, we have real disagreement. Why? Because guess what? If you keep living, your day is coming. Your day is coming where you look at your wife and say to yourself, I don't know why I married her. I don't know why I made this decision. But then when you wake up in the morning, you'll say to yourself, it was the best decision I ever made in my natural born life. Because you realize that she stuck with you through the highs and lows of life. She could have turned her back on you, but she stayed with you. You deserve for her to go, but she stuck right there with you. And so you have to understand, baby, that the struggle will teach you something that victory never will.
I know you're right about it.
Yeah, victory will never teach you. And that's why in life you have to learn that if you're going to do anything in life, baby, the only way you're going to learn is by failing. Yeah, everybody that becomes successful came successful from falling. It wasn't the victories, baby. It was the losses that taught them.
Yes.
It was the failure that taught them. It was the trying to get there, but always falling short. It was the trying to make ends meet, but never making them meet. It was the opportunity that you was fighting for that you never got. The position that you wanted, somebody else got it. It was the job that you wanted, somebody else got it. It was the house you wanted, but you weren't prepared for. It was the next level anointing that you wanted, but you didn't make the sacrifice. It was what you wanted, but somebody else got it because you weren't prepared. So it was the losses in life that taught you that you got to be prepared. You got to make the sacrifices. You got to sell out. Why? Because victory is in losses. Then when you lose enough, it'll teach you how to persevere. Be long suffering. One of the things that I talked about, I posted on Facebook, is that don't give up now, baby, because the victory is locked up in perseverance. You remember the song, Can You Stand the Rain? Yeah, because if you can stand the rain long enough, rest assured, baby, sunshine is coming. It can't rain forever. The sunshine has to come. And so when we look at the second line, it's all about a people realizing that if we come together, unite our minds and our hearts for a common goal, baby, we can do the impossible. Amen. I know most people would dare to not agree with me in this area, but I believe that we only need politicians as much as they need us. I'm going to say that again. We only need politicians as much as they need us. Yeah. Because the power, baby, is all in the people. I'm going to say that again. The power is all in the people. Let me tell you now, you can have all the laws you want, but if the people come together, baby, your laws become powerless. But watch this. But if you succumb to the system, the political system, once you subject yourself to the system, now you have to operate within the system, which means you have to operate in one hand, washes another. Yeah, if I do you a favor, you do me one. So if you operate in the political system, you have to succumb to the system. But I didn't come to operate in the system. I came to challenge the system. Because if you never challenge the system, you'll get what you always had, and what you always had is what will always will be. Amen. Yeah, because at the end of it all, the power is in the people. Yeah, we have the power. And so now Joshua has been given the task to unite the children of Israel and bring them to a place now where they are about to fight the biggest fight thus far. Now God calls Joshua out and he says, you're going to take Jericho. Back then, in order to fortify the city, they built walls to fortify the city. 13 feet high walls of concrete around the whole entire city to fortify the city. Watch this now. And they, watch this, the people and the system of the people was so powerful, watch this, Shirley, they didn't need anything on the outside. They can stay inside the walls and live forever and never go outside. Which says everything we need is in the house. Yeah, everything we need is in the house. And so watch this now. God says, Joshua, he says, I have given you Jericho. I'm paraphrasing, and I'm going to get us up to verse 16 all the way to verse 21. And then he says, here's what I want you to do. He says, I want you to put the Ark of Covenant out first. Something that they normally wouldn't do. But Joshua, because this enemy is so great, I want you to put the Ark of Covenant, which was the word of God, I want you to put that out first. I want you to put the priest behind them and then line up the people behind them. And then God said, Joshua, I want you to march around Jericho one time each day for 6 days. the seventh day, I want you to do it 7 times. Now, here's a problem. Here's a problem. Because technically, it would take you almost 1 day to march around it 1 time. Say that again. It almost takes you 1 day to march around Jericho 1 time. So now, watch this now. When Joshua gets the instructions from God and he go and tell the people, he tell the people exactly what God says, which means that you have to follow the instructions of the pastor. Whether it's me or any other pastor, you have to follow the instructions because those are the instructions came from God. But watch this now. But because the leader knows the people, not that he knows the people better than God, but any great leader, you don't have to tell them all the steps between A and Z. So Joshua goes to the people and he tells the people exactly what God told him. But here's what he adds to it. He says, when you march around, don't say nothing. In other words, keep your mouth closed. Don't say nothing. In other words, don't even talk to each other. Watch this. Because if you start talking, negativity gonna rise up. And if negativity rise up, it's going to rise up in the hearts and the minds of the people. And what God want to do, he won't be able to do because you will lack the capacity of faith. So watch this now. They get there and they do just as what God said. But why would God put the Ark of Covenant first on this particular mission? Watch this. Because God wanted to put the ark, which was the word of God, first, so that the people's focus will always be on the word. Always on him. If you ever find yourself in a place where you can't stop for a moment and think about him, there's a problem. Yeah, even if it ain't number 5 seconds of the day, a minute of the day, every now and then you got to stop and think about him. So they're marching around now and they're silent and they don't, God don't want them to get caught up in anything but believing and focus on the word of God. Focus on what God told you to do. Focus on your purpose and your destiny. So they're marching around Jericho, a fortified city. Now here's the crazy part. And Jericho can see them marching around. But I imagine in Jericho's mind, they're thinking that what an idiot people. What's wrong with these people? And they're marching around Jericho, silent and yet focused on God. The whole time they're marching, day 1, they're marching and focus on God. Day 2, they're marching and focus on God. Quiet as it may be, they're marching and focus on God. Listen to me, in this life sometime, baby, you won't be able to tell nobody nothing, but your whole focus got to be on God. But you just got to keep on marching. Listen to me, I know you got problems in your life, you got bills need to be paid, pain in your body, children acting a fool, husband or wife acting a fool, issues with your car, issues on your job, issues in your own mind, but baby, keep your focus on God and keep on marching. And they just second line and right around the walls of Jericho, ain't saying nothing, ain't dancing, but they just marching and keeping their eyes on Jesus, marching around Jericho. And day number 4 come, and they still marching and keeping their eyes on Jesus. Second line and for the 4th day, walking around Jericho, mind focused on God, body tired and mind racked and complex. But yet still, they're second lining around the greatest enemy. I don't know what your greatest problem is today. I don't know what your greatest issue is today. But if you just keep on second lining around your problem and stay focused on Jesus, at some point, it's got to come down. Day number 5 comes around, the day of grace, the day that we recognize that God is gracious to us. We realize that God's grace is forever. God's grace is sufficient. But yet and still, they're second lining around the walls of Jericho. Day number 6 comes, the day of man, the day of our humanity, the day of our natural affections, the day of our feeling, the day of the affection reflections of our own natural mind, our own natural capacity. They're marching, they're second lining around Jericho. And lo and behold, here comes day number 7. Now, the significance to understand that day number 7, that all of a sudden now, you have done this so long, that what normally takes you a whole day to do, now you're required to do it in 7 days. And how could you do what took a whole day in 7 days? The only way you can do that is because day 1 through 6, your confidence and your faith built up. And now, what you thought you couldn't do, in day 7, you can do it. And I stopped by to tell you that if you're second line to the 7th day, I know it took you a whole day to march around Jericho. Each day from day 1 through day 6. But on the 7th day, now you can do what you thought you never could do. Now you can deal with issues that you never thought you could deal with. Now you can face the devil that you never thought you could face. Now you can deal with sickness. Now you can deal with folk turning their back on your body, on you. Now you can deal with people not loving you, not treating you right, and mistreating you, and treating you any old kind of way after you've done nothing but to love them. Now you can deal with the fact that in your own mind saying you can't do it. So now you can march 7 times on the 7th day because you have this confidence. And now he says, on the 7th time around, he says, blow the trumpet and tell the people to shout. Now watch this. If you hadn't taught in 7 days, and your response will be a result of the greatest miracle in your life. You have reserved enough energy for 7 days that this shout is not just a regular shout, but this shout will produce the greatest miracle of your life. So if I told you that this shout that you're about to do will cause things in your life to change, the question is after walking around Jericho for 7 days, how loud could you shout? Yeah, how loud could you shout? And so now they shout and the walls come down. They have second line for 6 days. They second line 7 times on the 7th day and the walls came down. Now watch this. But if we go second line, if we gonna get the victory this time, here are the things that we got to pay attention to. Number 1, in verse 21, he says, destroy the men and women, young and old. Young and old. And in other words, he's saying we got to get rid of this mindset. We got to get rid of this, what it once was is what it's always going to be. And there ain't no need to change because it's not going to change. We got to get rid of the mindset. So if we're going to second line our way to victory, we've got to get rid of this mindset that is locked up in the men and women. Got to get rid of this mindset. And then he said, young and old. In other words, whoever have this mindset, we got to get rid of this mindset, whether they are young or whether they are old, but we got to get rid of this mindset because really it's this mindset that's destroying us. Yeah. Point number 2, he says, listen, he says, after you get rid of the men and the women, young and old, he says, get rid of the ox. Now watch this. Get rid of the ox. In other words, he says, get rid of the ox, and the ox represents work and labor. Yeah. In other words, what we used to do, the way we used to work, the way we used to labor, we got to destroy. It won't work today. Get rid of not just that mindset, but get rid of that old way of doing things because it won't work. I said this on Facebook. Our problems, if you think our problems in today's generation is going to be solved by having church, you got another thing coming. It won't be solved from having church. Then point number 3, he says, get rid of the young and the old women and men. Point number 1 in verse 21. Then he says, get rid of the ox. Watch this. And then he says, and also get rid of the sheep. Now, the sheep were humble animals. I'm saying to you that you can't be passive today. If these walls going to come down, you're going to have a sense of aggression and holy anger about yourself. Yeah, something got to make you mad. I ain't saying you got to fight, but it sure as hell got to make you mad enough to want to fight. Yeah, you got to want to do something about what we're dealing with. And it's got to anger you. We got to get rid of this passiveness. We got to get rid of, oh, it's okay, and oh, it's always been that way, and somebody else gonna do it. No, baby, you gonna do it. Stop waiting for the person to come behind you, the next person to fix it, the next person to pick up the trash, the next person to pick up the chair. No, baby, you take the initiative and you deal with it. We got to kill the sheep. Then he says, don't just destroy the young and the old, men and women. Don't just destroy the oxen. Don't just destroy the sheep, but you got to also destroy the ass. Yeah, you got to destroy the ass. And the ass represents them old stubborn ways. Yeah, you got to get rid of them old stubborn ways. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Can't nobody teach me nothing. I already been there and done that. I got the hat and the t-shirt. Well, baby, if you've been there and you done that and you got the hat and the t-shirt, why your life don't show it? And so we got to get rid of these old stubborn ways where can't nobody teach us, can't nobody tell us nothing, can't nobody rebuke us, can't nobody correct us, can't nobody tell us we're wrong and we're out of order, can't nobody tell us go sit yourself down and get yourself together, can't nobody tell us that you need to go look at yourself in the mirror and shake your own self and talk to your own self about yourself. We got to get rid of these old low down stubborn ways. And if we do that, the second line will see every issue in your life come down. Everything that's bothering you will come down. They will come down. And the day will come that we will be like the children of Israel in the city of New Orleans. We'll be second-minded because God have brought the walls of tradition and ignorance down. Amen. 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 The second line. Amen. The walls will come tumbling down. Amen. Y'all clap your hands.
Thank you for watching today's broadcast. Truly, that was a mighty, powerful word from God. And as always, it's the word from God and what we do that will change our lives and those in whom we love. Remember now, we're here to preach and teach to you a right now word from God, that God would work out his plan in us, through us, and for us. Give us a call, 855-774-8428. Be blessed.